In Death's Door, you play as a tiny little crow who works for a bureaucratic organisation known as the Reaping Commission. As a Reaper, it's your job to travel to the mortal realm to ferry souls into the afterlife, although business has been unusually quiet as of late. Embarking on a rare assignment, your target's soul is snatched away by an older crow, hell-bent on using it to open the Death's Door, an ominous floating gateway that hands over a set of dilapidated ruins. Chastised by your handler for losing your precious quarry, your only option is to appease the elderly crow by collecting 3 giant souls, located throughout the decaying mortal realm. Structurally, Death's Door shares many similarities with the Legend of Zelda series, specifically a link to the past and a link between worlds. Outside of a sprawling hub world, environments are divided up into 2 or more areas that serve as the game's dungeons. These temples, mansions, and ruins are labyrinth-like, consisting of twisting corridors, brain-teasing puzzles, and tense combat encounters. But to call this a simple Zelda clone would be to do it a great disservice. If anything, Death's Door surpasses Nintendo's recent efforts to modernise Link's isometric outings in multiple different ways. For starters, there's the game's combat, an evolution of the mechanics included in developer Acid Nerve's previous title, Titan Souls. Your playable fledgling has access to a base attack, a heavy attack that takes time to charge, a bow and arrow with limited shots, and a dodge roll that can carry you safely out of danger. It's a limited moveset, one that can be expanded slightly thanks to discoverable weapons and unlockable spells, but it feels extraordinary in the hands. There's a rhythm to your abilities, subtle cooldowns on your slashes and rolls that force you to be considerate in your actions despite the chaos that surrounds you. And believe me, things can get chaotic. Enemies are dangerous, capable of reducing your 4 hit points to 0 in mere seconds, but they don't have access to that many different types of attacks, and their tells are clear as day. The game introduces each new enemy type slowly, almost gently, allowing you to understand their patterns before they're added into the wider pool of archers, minotaurs, and fire-spitting plants that the game pulls from. Speaking as someone who frequently bounces off Souls-type combat systems, I describe the difficulty of Death's Door as extremely fair. The game is challenging, there's no doubt about it, but it never feels punishing to the point of frustration. Every enemy drops a currency that's used to upgrade your Reaper back at the hub world, but you retain it after you die, allowing those who may be struggling in certain sections to upgrade themselves a little bit earlier than perhaps those more familiar with games of this genre. On a similar note, seeds can be planted into pots scattered across the game world to grow a flower that grants you full health. Although the seeds themselves are a limited resource discovered through exploration, these glowing flowers grow back after each death, providing permanent pockets of respite on your journey if you're struggling with a certain section. But once you've got the hang of it, fighting in Death's Door is a ferocious joy. It's a dance of sorts, one that becomes more elegantly choreographed the more familiar you become with your adversaries. Whereas in classic Zelda titles, fights rarely feel as fleshed out as other aspects such as exploration or puzzle design, here the combat feels as tense, chaotic, and fair as it does in any other third-person action game. It's superb, and I entered every encounter excited for the fresh challenge I knew I was about to face. Alongside combat, each dungeon includes various puzzles revolving around 1 or 2 themes that are specific to each area. A crumbling mansion, for instance, plays with the idea of firing arrows to light torches, whereas forest ruins are all about hitting big plants that spit out obstacle-destroying bombs. No mechanic overstays its welcome, and the game frequently throws away concepts as soon as you progress onto the next area. Admittedly, there's nothing here necessarily innovative. Fans of this genre will have seen the majority of these mechanics multiple times before, but they're well implemented, and I found myself beaming as I worked out the solution to a particularly tricky section on more than one occasion. In another nod to Nintendo's green-garbed hero, each dungeon contains certain obstacles that can only be conquered by discovering a specific item. Contextualized as spells and unlocked by completing a combat gauntlet, they range from a fire attack to a bomb that can be plucked from thin air. There's a tangible sense of progress to these spaces, despite how sprawling they may initially appear. The game features limited checkpoints. Doors that transport you back to your monochrome workplace, which serves as your hub world, are placed only at the start of each section. Thankfully, unlocking shortcuts is a common occurrence, allowing you to skip longer sections and get back to where you were killed within seconds. A blessing, especially considering enemies respawn after you die. If I have one minor criticism, it's that Death's Door doesn't feature any kind of map. Although the dungeons themselves are designed in such a way that they naturally guide the player to where they need to be, I did find myself hopefully lost on a few occasions. The answer was often very simple: a locked door I hadn't noticed, a second path tucked towards the back of a large room, but it impacted the pacing of one specific dungeon quite a lot. Would having a map have made the joy of exploration that is so central to Death's Door feel lesser somehow? Perhaps, but I'd be curious to see if it's an issue that other players encounter. Perhaps the most remarkable element of Death's Door, however, is its aesthetic. Presented from an isometric viewpoint, the world of Death's Door is breathtakingly beautiful. Through the use of soft lighting and depth of field effects, each section looks like a carefully crafted diorama. It's all very delicate and precisely designed, utilising height and scale to the extent that everything almost feels ornate, like something of great importance that you're not supposed to touch. This realm feels impossibly old, the years unkind to its stone spirals and wooden huts, and all of it communicated purely through the level design and visual style. Inhabiting this world are curious creatures, humanoids and animals that provide snippets of conversation on the rare occasions you run into someone friendly for a change. No one seems settled here, as if the stench of decay in this environment is so potent that it's impossible to call any one place home. That is, except for the giant souls, the trio of creatures you're tasked with harvesting. These souls rule the game's 3 locations and serve as Death's Door's bosses. From an elderly witch with a passion for pots to an overweight despot frog, they're an eclectic bunch with only one thing in common: their fear of dying. Overstaying their welcome in this mortal realm for centuries, they've become deluded and deranged in their continued quest to avoid death. As you explore their dungeons, they will appear unannounced, attempting to mask the fear your mere presence instills in them despite your diminutive stature. You are a Reaper, after all, and you carry with you an intent that these old souls find deeply unsettling. In the case of the old witch, this does not stop her from almost teasing you to attack her despite her beastly stature. The knowledge that you'll have to eventually face this sinister figure haunts your time within her halls, and creates a tension so rarely found within games of this genre. It's fantastic. But that's not to say that Death's Door is gloomy, far from it. The game is actually very funny, unafraid to cut through its own pervasive atmosphere with silly jokes and the use of British colloquialisms. It's a fun world to exist within, and its characters recall those found within games like Hollow Knight and the extended work of Studio Ghibli. Then there's the soundtrack, calming pieces that pair perfectly with the wider atmosphere the game evokes throughout. It's magnificent, and I'm already desperate to pick it up as a separate release once the game is publicly available. There's just this intangible beauty to Death's Door, a sense of desolation and neglect juxtaposed with good spirits and warm humour that's conveyed elegantly via the game's visuals, music and writing. You know, it's really hard to articulate how it feels the exact moment you realise you're experiencing something truly special. It's a culmination of things, I suppose. It happens to me very rarely, but when it does, it feels divine. And Death's Door is something truly special. I can't remember the last time I consumed a game in this way, and I mean devoured, to the extent that I finished it in mere days. Desperate to see more, yet terrified to see it end. Death's Door is a magnificent triumph, and an essential purchase for anyone with access to a PC or an Xbox. I implore you to experience this game for yourself. It's by far the best thing I've played all year, and something really quite wonderful is going to have to come along to knock this off my top spot. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this review. I was really excited to tell you all about this game. Please do not sleep on Death's Door. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, leave a comment, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more indie reviews. New videos every week. I'll see you very soon.